Shalom, this is Rabbi Klein from the Greater Miami Jewish Federation. In this week's Parsha, the brothers finally reunite in Egypt. Joseph reveals himself, and of course the brothers are shocked. What will Joseph do? And Joseph first says, "Have no fear." He says, "God sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival and to save your lives in an extraordinary way. It's not you," he says, "that sent me here to Egypt, but God. God has made me an advisor to Pharaoh, lord over all of his household, and ruler over all of the land of Egypt." Now, here he says two things. First, God sent me here to Egypt to save you, our family. And second, God made me the top advisor to Pharaoh over all of the land of Egypt. Now, last week I discussed how in saying these words, Joseph overcame his resentment and rage at his brother's betrayal. But now I would like to look at Joseph's words from a different aspect, a different perspective. How did he know this interpretation? How did he know that what God thought or why God put him there? God, in fact, never ever says a word to Joseph in the entire narrative. People are often surprised that a man who's invoking God all the time is never once addressed by God. Abraham is, Isaac is, Jacob is, Joseph, never. However, Joseph did have some form of communication. It's a form that all of us actually have. Joseph had very vivid dreams. How are we supposed to understand dreams? Now, there's various theories, but the predominant theory among the rabbis is dreams do have substance. They are some form of a vision about a future or a possible future. And of course, in modern psychotherapy, Freud saw dreams as repressed wishes of our inner self. However, whatever your theory of truth or untruth of dreams, whether this is a real vision of the future or a repressed emotion, you need an interpreter of dreams to uncover the true meaning of what you've just saw. So indeed, Joseph doesn't have prophecy, but like all of us, Joseph does have dreams, and he has vivid dreams when he's a child. Let's recap his earliest dreams. He has two. One of sheaves. All the brothers are sheaves in the field, and all the brothers' sheaves bow down to his sheep. And in the second dream, he's in the middle of the universe, and the sun and the moon and the stars are all bowing down to him. That's the vision. But Joseph is a young child, and he interprets those dreams, and they're both about him. They're both all about him, and they're all about his power. One is that all my brothers are going to bow down to me, reigning over his brothers. And one is a vision of megalomania. The entire world is going to bow down to me, the sun, the moon, the stars. They really reflect the immaturity of a child. However, if you think about it, this is actually what happens in the future. The brothers come down to Egypt, and they bow down to Joseph. Also, the entire people of Egypt in last week's Parsha also bow down to Joseph. So in fact, these dreams actually happen of people bowing down to him. However, I'd like to submit to you that this is not the real meaning of Joseph's dreams. The Gemara at the end of Brachot, between pages 55 and 58, have a long section with all kinds of rabbinic dreams, and all the rabbis went to interpreters. Dreams clearly can have multiple meanings and multiple futures, and even the rabbis felt they needed to go to an analyst, a dream interpreter, to understand what they dreamed in their sleep. Joseph is the paradigmatic interpreter of dreams in the Torah, but it will take him many years to interpret his own dreams. When does his true interpretation of those dreams begin to crystallize? I think in last week's Parsha, when he interprets Pharaoh's dreams, he starts beginning interpreting other dreams. Pharaoh, like Joseph, has two dreams, and Joseph explains that those two dreams are going to be about 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. However, why did Pharaoh need Joseph? Joseph was a guy in prison that Pharaoh pulled out of prison to interpret his dreams. Pharaoh has an entire industry, has a whole court of interpreters. But the pasuk says, the verse says in last week's Parsha, The Pharaoh went to these advisors, and no one could interpret them for Pharaoh. Rashi picks up on the words for Pharaoh, and he says that he got many different interpretations that day. For example, one of his interpreters said, "You're going to have 7 daughters, and you're going to bury 7 daughters." Very nice. But Pharaoh didn't accept that interpretation. Why? Because, according to the verse, none could interpret them for Pharaoh. He understood Pharaoh has a role to play in this world. It's not a personal dream that he was having. God was giving him a vision as Pharaoh. He was put in the position as Pharaoh for a reason in life. And it's Joseph who understands that people are given opportunities for a reason. Pharaoh has this dream. He's very troubled by it. And Joseph is giving him direction and advice as the leader of the entire world at that time, the leader of Egypt. And it is this insight that Joseph has which makes him second in command. He becomes an advisor. When he begins to interpret the dreams of others, whether it's a baker or whether it's the wine steward or whether it's Pharaoh, perhaps he begins to think about his own dreams as a child and begins to reinterpret the dreams of his own. When these dreams come to fruition, when the brothers come down to Egypt and bow down to him, it says that Joseph remembered the dreams. However, he matured. The dreams that he had as a child are now perceived as different now. The Gemara says in Brachot 22b that a dream comes to fruition only after 22 years. Interestingly, Joseph is sold at 17, and the brothers come down the first time and bow down to him when he's 39. In other words, 22 years later. It takes 22 years for this vision to come to fruition. However, the meaning that Joseph ascribes to that event is not what you'd expect. It's not about power. Let's return to our Parsha. God sent me here to provide for you and the country. That's the interpretation of his dream as a child. You know those sheaves that were bowing down to him? It's not about power. That's about providing food to others. Joseph understood that the reason why I was put here is because there's going to be a famine. Other people's sheaves are going to be bowing down to me, and I need to provide for them. I have a role to play right now. And in fact, the sun and the moon and the stars bowing down to him is also a vision that I now have the entire world on my shoulders. I am second in command to Pharaoh. I am in charge of Pharaoh's entire treasury to make sure people have what they need. That's the meaning of his dream. It's not about him. It's about who he is. Joseph reinterprets his dream. As a child, they're all about him. But as a leader, as an adult, it's about why he is there. It's not about being wrapped up in yourself. In fact, a child who held on to the interpretations of his youth could never have said that God put me here for a reason, to provide for you and to support the people of Egypt. He probably would have thrown his brothers right back into prison. This is an idea of servant leadership. We are put into this world, we have visions of ourselves, and we need to use our abilities and our dreams to serve the common good. And I think that that's a moral for all of us today. Each of us have those hopes and dreams about ourselves from the time we were children. The question is, how do we align our talents, our dreams, our hopes? How do we align those to advance the common good for all? Wishing all of you a very Shabbat Shalom and a Happy New Year.